Well, folks, here we are, choosing between multiple business school offers. I'm Greg Guglielmo. I am the founder and chief consultant, if you will, at Avanti Prep. We've partnered with GMAT Club since 2017. You can, check us out online, read all about us. I think what we have here is something that doesn't even, in fact, involve much service. That is choosing between multiple business school offers. The fact that it's multiple implies, hey, a good thing. Hopefully, you've got your results in hand and you have a few acceptances. Let's get into it. I don't think there's a ton here, right? Like so much of what we do in this space, so many of the videos that I do for GMAT Club, often on other systems, by the way. I think there is a lot of content and a lot of strategy to that, and in some cases there are magic bullets that we could kind of tackle and go through with those. With this, I don't really think there's that much of a magic bullet. It's more about you, and it's more about your preferences, and it's more about what resonates with you with a certain school. So look, I've listed a few things up here on the screen. It's going to be different for everybody. The first of those bullets is go with your gut. This is probably the most vague, but the most kind of feel version of what goes into choosing a certain school. What does that mean? It means that as you went through this process of applying and speaking with current students and alumni and attending events and thinking about what a certain school means and its brand and its ethos and its values and its culture and its community, sometimes you just go with your gut. Sometimes you just know, in you, that school holds a certain chemistry, a certain connection with you, and that's going to be the primary thing that drives your decision. Other kind of topics here that you could click through. Again, these are going to vary a lot for different people, and you have to kind of analyze them, work through them, filter through them, on your own. For some people, probably a little less commonly, I think, at the MBA level, but it's going to be academics or research. There are people who want to go that route, who are very focused on, what's going on in the classroom, or there are going to be a couple people each year who might be on a PhD track, and maybe you're worried about research. Alumni is a big one. What's the alumni network like, especially in my field? In the field that I'm interested in? What are the experiential learning opportunities at a certain program? What are the extracurriculars? Are there certain clubs that exist at a program I'm interested in that I really see myself being a leader of? Maybe you talked about those in your application. Facilities, seems like a funny one, right? But there is, especially with schools opening new facilities, sometimes you go, you visit, you fall in love, and you see yourself in that space. And so facilities can matter to certain people. Again, some more than others. Faculty, you could see them all listed on the page. International, those could be international opportunities. It could also be, what's the global brand of a school? If you're from another country, maybe you plan to go back to that country at some point in the future. How is the brand perceived, in your home, in your home country, in your home region? Location, I have X2, location times 2 in there. I would say location here, what do I mean by times 2? It means location within the world, and within, if it's a US program, is it, in the Northeast? Is it outside New York? Is it in or outside Chicago? Is it on the West Coast? These can matter to people because maybe on a personal level, because they wanted to always live in a certain part of the country or world. They can matter on a professional level, because if you're interested in tech and Silicon Valley, maybe you want to be near that. The other form of location, is urban versus suburban versus rural. Does that matter to people? A school could be, in a great location for you. It could be right smack in New York City. But if you weren't looking for an urban MBA experience, that has a lot of benefits, being in the city as well. It can have professional benefits, network benefits. But if you were looking for more of a campus kind of experience, maybe that's not the right fit for you. So location can mean a lot of different things, a lot of different people. And again, all of these things get valued extremely differently by folks out there. What are the partner and family resources? Probably the biggest one. These are in alphabetical order, by the way, or roughly, maybe except for that last one, almost alphabetical order. professional and recruiting. That's probably the biggest one and most common one at the MBA level, just because they are such, that's the big draw, is what jobs people go to through MBA programs. They are these kind of recruiting apparatuses. And the Career Center, you could almost maybe throw Career Center on there, as a bullet or a sub bullet. What is the quality of that Career Center? But it all, I think, rolls into professional and recruiting opportunities. Those can be and probably should be, as you evaluate them, specific to, of course, the industry or jobs and companies and roles you're interested in. There's also some overlay to that about, like, how do people from my home country maybe fare when they're recruiting for these jobs at this particular school? That takes homework, that takes conversation to kind of unearth. I think that's something you probably would ideally have unearthed when you first chose these schools to apply to, but now you're on the back end of that, and you got to kind of revalidate that or research it further in order to decide whether I want to make a deposit and attend this school. Tuition and cost of living can matter to people. Size of program can matter to people as well. And again, it's literally different strokes for different folks. It's like some people want a small program where they're going to get to know everybody in the class. What are the downsides? There's a great relationship benefit to that. The downsides to that is can it feel like a little bit of a fishbowl where everyone kind of knows each other's business? Could the smaller programs, the class size, the alumni network is not going to be as big. And then you could just flip those for bigger programs. Bigger programs have huge alumni networks, which is great. Does that open more doors? But you're not gonna, you're gonna get lost in the shuffle. You're not gonna get to know people as much. All of this varies greatly by person. There are different constructs out there for evaluating this stuff, ranging from, again, go with your gut. That's the most feel of these, all the way through. I've seen people build like 2x2 grids to analyze and assess them. And of course, you always have to kind of factor in your finances. Scholarships are a bullet on there. How much does it cost to attend these schools? Did I get offered any money? And these are the different things. Let me peek at potential questions. I don't know. Nothing specific, I think, rises to the fore here. I'm probably telling you stuff you already know, but just to kind of put it on paper. Things that you might not be thinking about. And for me to allow me to try to highlight or reiterate, attend your admit events. It doesn't mean you have to attend in person if you're really, really far away, but schools that have their admit weekends. If you are local or relatively local, I think that is probably the best way to get a feel for a school, to go immerse yourself there for 2 or 3 days. Keep in mind, those are sell weekends. They're rolling out the red carpet for you. They want you to attend. So of course, if you go to those, there'll be virtual options as well sometimes. Go to those, but I would really, really make sure you kind of, in addition to that you complement or supplement that by speaking to students and alumni. Something you, again, might have ideally done along the way and as you applied and as you decided where to apply. But speak with students and alumni. Speak with students and alumni in your target field if that professional or recruiting piece is the big one for you, because you're spending all this money or you're taking out these loans to go attend these schools. You want to have a good feel and understanding for what's going to happen professionally, or what the probabilities are and how those might have shifted in the last year or two. They're always cyclical in MBA land. It's up and down with how competitive apps are and how competitive certain industries are. So it's all cyclical. It's hard to read what it's going to be like, 2 years from now. But talk to students. That's the real, I think, elbow grease on your part, is speak with current students and alumni, especially if the professional thing is the biggest for you. For some people, it might be a personal factor. How will I fit in? Will I feel welcome? Is this the right culture or fit for me? Culture and values, by the way, could very well have been a bullet on here, but that's kind of under the gut category, I guess you could say. But from the professional side, it's the jobs and industries you're interested in. And I think even more ideally than that, if you're coming from outside the US and these are US schools, or you're coming from outside the country and attending a school in another country, and therefore there are visa and hiring and immigration considerations, you really want to speak to somebody who's interested in the same jobs and industries, who's like they're a first year or second year or young alum, who's gone down the same road you target. You want to speak to them. And I think ideally you speak to somebody who has also navigated the same kind of visa, immigration, sponsorship considerations as you, perhaps even more ideally somebody from your home country, because they will know at a very granular level what's the landscape like for people who are on the same, visa as you're going to be on and who need the same kind of sponsorship that you need. It will get so granular that for the people who have gone through it on the recruiting side, if they're going through consulting, they'll know at that school which exact which exact companies in that industry sponsor internationals and which do not. Some schools will actually post that. If you look up the employment reports online, somewhat rarely, but some schools will kind of asterisk it or post it which companies hire international students from their school, but there's really no substitute for speaking with the people who have gone down that road in order to understand it at a granular level. They'll also be able to tell you, look, this is a tough year in this industry. It's been a tough year in this industry for, folks, international hires and something like that. So I think the Advent weekend is great. Gives you such a good feel for the school, whether in person if you can or virtually. By the way, if you are local and it's not too much to travel there, I feel like that's a nice kind of pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like you've gone through all this work and now you get this kind of celebratory thing where, hey, you spent all this time trying to convince the school to take you. Now they're trying to convince you to sign up with them. But that part about speaking with current students and alumni, I think is key. Another thing on here, you can see it at the bottom. Negotiate your funding. And then we do have a question about that from an attendee. So the question is about a respectable amount of time to start bugging the AdCom for a response to your scholarship negotiation request. Yeah, I'd give it, I know that they're dealing with round 3 deadlines, believe it or not, right now. I'd give it, I don't know. I'd give it away. You got to look at what your deposit deadline is too. If the deposit deadline is imminent, then I think you could be a little more politely, hi, I'm so sorry to bother you. As I know, you have round 3, round 2 to say whatever you're dealing with. But with the deposit deadline coming on such and such a date, I wanted to ask if it would be possible to hear a response within the next few days. I think if you're polite and you acknowledge, but if the deposit deadline is still a little bit of a ways away, I think you could probably give it 5 business days or something, or maybe give it a week, 5 to 7 days to just see. If it's imminent though, you have to kind of politely push back. But the fact is, as this question implies, and as the bottom note there indicates, you can usually try to negotiate your funding. I think with this, I think of it as a little bit similar to being on the wait. Like you're going to put some sort of overture, polite, professional, respectful overture out there. I have seen people and had clients successfully do this by phone. I think the more common and more comfortable oftentimes for people is to do it via email, or at least to kind of throw that initial overture out there via email. Within that overture, I say it's a little bit like a waitlist strategy in that I'm looking for 3-ish concrete reasons why you believe you should be reconsidered for scholarship funding at that school. Probably the one that carries the most leverage, by the way, is having an offer of money, a scholarship offer from some other roughly equally, some other scholarship offers, let's say. I think ideally it would be like a scholarship offer from an equal or higher ranked school. Sometimes offers from lower ranked schools can help, or at least be worth noting as well. I don't think you can expect a higher ranked school necessarily to kind of like match a lower ranked school's offer. But sharing where else you've been admitted and if you have those offers is oftentimes, kind of have to read each situation differently, but it's oftentimes can be to your benefit to like share those. A lot of schools will ask that or want to know that. And if you do have one of those offers, it will probably give you more leverage than just these kind of abstract reasons why you're hoping to be reconsidered. Other possibilities for those, 2 or 3 bullets or concrete reasons why you're requesting scholarship reconsideration. So if you have other offers or other scholarship offers, politely, candidly, respectfully delineate those. But other reasons, I mean, it could be related to personal finances or family finances. Maybe a certain industry you're coming from does not pay super highly, or if you have kind of social sector goals that are not going to pay super high post MBA, you could maybe put a little something around that. Now, obviously, it has to be true, though. You're going to have to submit through their financial aid office. Well, it has to be true because it has to be true. That's, enough said there. You wouldn't ever want to mislead or say something that's not true. But on top of that, you're going to have to submit financial forms and financials, tax returns, and whatever else to their financial aid office. So you can't scream hardship and then show them tax returns where you work in like a really high paying private sector industry and blah, 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 blah. So that's a consideration where it exists for certain people. Other things could be a little bit more just related to depth of interest in the school, or if you really, really a unique contribution you think you could make, or if you have a tremendous track record with that school of the level of interest you showed. I would try to come up with, though, some sort of or is it certain thing about your leadership? You want to kind of think about and brainstorm unique to you. What are those 2 or 3 really concrete reasons? You could put that together into a polite, respectful scholarship negotiations email overture. Don't make it overly long. I would probably, depending on how many reasons you have in there, I don't know if it's something like 300 words-ish. There are schools out there that, by the way, do not just blanket, won't negotiate with you. This is very anecdotal, but over the years I've seen Michigan Ross and Wharton, it's a blanket no. And again, another case, it probably overall, it's more likely that you won't get extra funding, even if you try. But what's the harm in trying, right? It's kind of a free game to play. Unless you hire, somebody to help. We do actually offer scholarship negotiations as a service. No accident. If you go to our website, of course, we have all of our kind of core services, regular hourly services and packages and interview prep that are so inherent to this process. But we do also work with applicants, of course, on waitlist support and scholarship negotiations. We do offer it as a distinct and heavily discounted hourly service. On the topic of waitlist support, by the way, I think you may have another session about this, so not to steal that thunder, but just to throw it out there, we do work with applicants, obviously. So you may have a couple of offers in hand, but you may have a waitlist or 2 in your pocket that you're maybe at a higher ranked school that you're trying to work through. Feel free to reach out, avantiprep.com or greg@avantiprep.com. These are just some kind of things to consider when you're on the wait list. This will vary by person, of course, and by school. Different schools have different rules and policies and instructions when you're on the wait list. But that is, again, no accident that we offer, in addition to scholarship negotiations, we offer, of course, waitlist support. We offer both of those at a distinct and heavily discounted rate, just because it's in both of those cases, I think it's more likely than not, more likely you probably won't get an outcome. There have been analyses that at the top 16 US programs, the waitlist, historic waitlist acceptance rate is 9%. We have been fortunate to 4x that with our clients, but yeah, you never know. So scholarship, though, definitely one to consider negotiating your funding, and that can definitely drive decisions. So choosing between offers, it's a good problem to have. We do have a survey on our website too. Oh, I've been timed out. But look, here are some other things. This just comes from that survey. Just to jog your thoughts about choosing between offers. Again, is it academics? Is it alumni network? Is it culture and values? Is it extracurriculars? Is it facilities? Is it faculty? Is it leadership? Is it location? Probably the biggest one out there for you is, for all of you is, or the most common, I should say. It does vary by person, but the most common is going to be the professional and recruiting opportunities you're laying, and overlaid with that, the cost of attendance and do you have any scholarships, because you're trying to figure out the calculus of how worth it is this and how do I figure this out. If you're comparing between it gets a little complicated when you're comparing between a slightly lower ranked school with, where you might have a little bit of a scholarship offer, and a lower ranked and a higher ranked school where maybe you have no offer, but the placement statistics are better. You got to run your math, your expected value calculations. Another thing, this is more of the gut, goes back to the gut, but sometimes I say to people, look, if you fast forward 5 years, and if you think to yourself, hey, if I look back and I'm going to regret not having attended school X, maybe that higher ranked school, because it cost a little bit more, and that's going to bug me for the rest of my life. That's another little kind of way to tease that against yourself. The person who answered the first, got one more minute here. The person who answered that first question, the deposit deadline is April 21st. I think you should give them a little bit of time to, I don't know when you sent the email, but digest that a little bit, give them a little bit of time, because April 21st is not imminent. If I had to make the deposit, is it still possible to negotiate for additional scholarships? I would say yes. Yes. Yes, it is. Theoretically, you might lose a little bit of leverage because you already made that deposit, but no, I've definitely seen that. I would say the probability goes down a little, but you can still do that. The appropriate mechanism to kickstart the conversation regarding scholarship negotiations, I believe I answered that. It's typically an email. I have seen it done by phone. If you have if you feel comfortable, confident doing that, it could. But I think the email gives you the ability to state your case and to put it out there. Our scholarship negotiation service helps people figure out what could go in that and, state their case accordingly. Some schools will then follow up and make you fill out a certain form, like Columbia makes you put it into an essay form. Georgetown, McDonough, Virginia Darden, they have these portals. It's basically the same content or information, but you deliver it through the portal. What if I have offers but without scholarship? You could definitely still try. Then it's more of you're kind of playing to other elements. I would say the biggest leverage here, the biggest kind of needle mover is probably having those other scholarships, or maybe, if you're in at a higher ranked school and you're negotiating with a school ranked a few degrees down, but if you'd attend there with a scholarship, you could kind of mention that. I think we're going to wrap up here. What's the best way to search where each school's alumni go post-grad? I guess the internet and conversations. Look, the school reports are really the best data. The best formal synthesized data on that are going to be the school reports, the employment report for those schools, and then you could overlay that with conversations. Can completing MBA math help with getting more scholarship money? I would say probably more of a waitlist thing. Let's take the last question here, and then we'll let you go to the next session. Is it a good idea to share details of an admit to waitlisted colleges while letting them know that their college remains a priority? Details of an admit to waitlisted colleges. I think that kind of candor typically, I always want to go case by case or asterisk by saying it's case by case. I've been fortunate to have been accepted to schools X, Y, and Z. If you got scholarship offers, you can put those in parentheses. However, my absolute top choice remains, or my priority remains, your school, and I would attend if accepted. I think typically that can, you want to word it correctly. But let's leave it there. You've got another session to head to. It's been a pleasure to discuss this with you today. Please feel free to reach out. You could go through our website or greg@avantiprep.com if it is waitlist support or scholarship negotiations, or if you're invited to interview. If you're on a waitlist somewhere and invited to interview, obviously we're happy to help with interview or prep, any and all of the above. Great to meet you. Best of luck. Please feel free to reach out. Thank you.